This is NHI Notables with Ernesto Nieto, recorded at the National Hispanic Institute in Maxwell, Texas.
Natalia Palmarini,
Yes.
New York, the Big Apple. This is Ernesto Nieto. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. There were any number of NHIers that I've been wanting to interview. And as you know, I always have a reason for interviewing someone. So there's a reason for calling you. There's a reason for wanting to talk to you. And
Good one.
actually recording your message and your thoughts about a lot of things. So first, before I begin, how's your family?
Family's good. Trying to convince them to move to Texas. So it's been interesting lately.
So you see, you get a little Texas heat on you, a little Texas blood in you, and and it becomes like a fever, and it never goes away. Anyway, let me start out by just generally going over what I wanted to talk about. You go to Villanova, you participate in NHI programs, you go to Villanova, you're there for 4 years, you do well with your academics, and then you graduate. And one of the things we're very interested in is what happens to NHIers after they graduate and what happens to them in terms of their former connections versus life outside of college, life now beginning in the fast lanes of work and being home. And so I'm going to start with my first question. You just graduated when?
I graduated in 2016, so almost 2 years ago. Hard to believe. I
know, time does fly. Can you kind of just briefly go into making the adjustment? Or is there anything you would want to share with someone about who's currently in college and then suddenly being out in that cold world called the business world?
Yeah. So making the adjustment from going and being in New York to going to college, or being out of college?
Let's try both. Let's go from the big urban centers of New York to Villanova.
Well, as we know, I'm from New York City, and from Manhattan, from the city. Grew up there, and very urban area, a lot of diversity, a lot of different kinds of people, socioeconomic status, and so on and so forth. And then I decided to go to a college that was in a very prim and proper, as I like to say, town that was right outside of Philadelphia, where everybody was very much upper class. Everybody was white. And though I am half white and half Latina, I very much identify with my Latina half because that is the part that comes out of me the most and gives me most energy. So having a presence on campus was very interesting for me because I wasn't a familiar face to everybody else, and everybody was kind of used to a particular kind of look, particular kind of culture, and that was not something that I had. Everybody was from the suburbs, and I was a city kid, and my attitude and my passion and the way that I presented myself very much made me stand out and made everybody else a little bit intimidated, just because I am loud, I am boisterous, and I'm not willing to kind of let my thoughts go unheard. So that definitely was something that kind of threw a wrench into creating friends at first in college. And then along with that comes this wave of anger because you don't understand why the policies at the college don't necessarily favor the population that you are from, whether it is a low income class, which is what I grew up in, or being a Latina, try to manage myself in that system.
So
but eventually I found a way.
Let me ask you a question. Are you suggesting that you weren't quiet and reserved? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, if you know me, that's not very much my thing. I wasn't very quiet and reserved, and I definitely shook some cages of the people who were creating these policies, including the president, which I pretty much told to his face that he was a people pleaser. And being from a Catholic background and actually working for a Catholic organization now, saying that to a priest is not necessarily something you do, but, I didn't want somebody else telling me some kind of fluff to make me feel better about going to Villanova. I mean, overall, I love the school. They offer a lot of amazing things. It's a beautiful school. They have, a great culture overall. But when it came to the student body and when it came to the policies, there wasn't anything that I could truly benefit from because I spent my time when I wasn't studying or doing homework or in classes working because I needed to pay for my tuition and I needed to make sure my bills were covered and I was able to send money home. And doing that as a college student, I wasn't able to reap any of the opportunities like the career fairs or meet any of the people that they were bringing in to network with or be a part of any of the really cool clubs that allow you to get jobs after you graduate. So it was kind of, it was like high school all over again in the sense where I was going to school and I was working. But I was kind of sold this, well, if you go to Villanova, you'll be able to benefit from X, Y, and Z, and be a part of all of these different kinds of things. And I never had the time to do that. So there wasn't anything that was really,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this question. Did you feel like you paid some prices or a price for not fitting in? Or did you feel you were exceptional in fitting in? Or was there a requirement for fitting in? Did you have to come from a certain background and were you rejected for not having that background?
I wasn't rejected by the school. And I don't think that I was directly rejected by or purposely rejected by the student body. I think I was just kind of like this unfamiliar kind of foreign virus in the body. And they're like, what in the world is this? But I think the price that I did pay was that I spent a good year and a half just being angry and not fully knowing what to do with that anger to teach myself how to better work in systems that mimicked what that student body was. So I think that emotionally it took a huge toll on me because I just felt not lost, but just jaded, very jaded. I kind of felt betrayed in a way because Villanova was where I started NHI.
Well,
so
here
for
you
me,
are.
It was like,
yeah, here you are.
What happened?
A young blonde woman. I mean, you don't have dark skin. You're blonde.
But I don't look like
and
the
you kind of
student
fit
body.
in. What was? I want to know what was the source of anger. Can you kind of walk me through that, or walk us through that? What can you define some of the sources of anger?
I think one of the biggest sources of anger was that I was never a part of any of the conversations that were going on. And when I tried to be a part of those conversations, I've had teachers tell me, students tell me that, well, that's not the majority, or that doesn't really speak to the population here. So, okay, an example was I took an advanced placement speech class, and I did a speech on what it was like growing up in poverty. And I failed that assignment. And when I spoke to the professor about why I failed, her exact words were, it doesn't speak to the student body. And when you do a speech, you have to be able to connect with the population you're talking to.
Yeah, the popular thought.
And I looked at her and I was like, this was a speech you asked me to do in regards to teaching people. And it is quite obvious that the people at the school do not understand what it is like to grow up in poverty, and that people who grow up from a low income background are able to make it to places like Villanova. Not everybody grew up in a house and going to a school with the same people from when they started in pre-K all the way to college. We have different backgrounds, and this is what the assignment was, and I feel like I accomplished that, and I am sorry that none of the kids are able to relate to that. And there was some back and forth about it, and, eventually I did pass because I wasn't taking no for an answer, but it was moments like that where it's like, oh, well, you're not the popular thought, so what you're saying doesn't really matter. And I wasn't a fan of that. I wasn't a fan of always having to be the kid in the classroom that had the opposite thoughts.
Or just didn't fit in.
Always.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple of questions. What year did you attend? And didn't you go to the freshman program, or you went only to the LDZ?
No, I went to the Northeast Great Debate. Well, it wasn't Great Debate then. It was the YLC in 2009. I did it at Villanova University. It was the start to an amazing life-changing experience. And I honestly remember those 6 days as if they happened yesterday. That's my answer.
So then you go,
I started in 2009.
You go from there to New York, or do you go to another LDZ?
No, I actually went to National LDZ in Chicago.
Okay.
That year we were in Concordia. And yeah, I don't know how long they had the LDC there, but we were at Concordia, and that was another great experience. I didn't want to go to New York. I wanted to venture out. So it was nice to be with a bunch of Midwesterners who were pretty similar to the Northeast people.
Now, you also begin to run into some Texans in Chicago. I know you did.
I ran into Texans when I made it to Nationals, when Nationals was still a thing at University of Texas at Austin. So that was the first time I felt the wrath of the RGV and El Paso, and how well groomed they are in debating, and how unprepared I was to compete against them. But it's all good. It was a good time.
Well, what would you say? What in your mind distinguishes a kid from Texas versus a kid from the Apple, the city of New York?
This answer seems to change for me as I continue to get older, especially now that I'm the kid from the Big Apple wanting to go to Texas. I think a large part of it is ownership. In Texas, you can own land, and that's a pretty big deal. And a lot of the parents, or at least the kids that I met that were from Texas, their parents had a house and they owned land, or they had a business, and life is very different. You take ownership of a lot of things, and you have a lot of pride because you have something to show for it. Whereas in New York, you own your personality. You own what you come with, what you bring to the table. A lot of the people from the Northeast, they aren't coming from very affluent backgrounds. So what we have is just us and our attitude and our edge. And I think when you kind of put that edge up against the edge of being very prideful and this kind of very Texan mentality of being from this huge state that can pretty much be a country on its own, it's very interesting to kind of see both in the same room, especially go head to head, because I think we both wear our sleeves, and we're proud to be where we're from, and to kind of show that off and have the competition of who's better. But I think both are very beautiful and bring a lot to this organization, just because it's two totally different backgrounds. But
let me ask you this other question. And I know that you're not necessarily a politically correct person.
I'll try to be.
You try to be, but I don't think it's possible in your life. Yeah. Villanova, would you go back if you had the same choice? Would you go to some other school? Whatever you know now that you didn't know before. And that's not to disparage the university. That's simply to talk about the environment you would prefer to be in.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't go to another school. I would go back to Villanova, and I would redo everything I did. I think I would have handled, now that what I know now, and I've dealt with what I've dealt with, and kind of sat on everything I went through at Villanova, I would go back and do it again, just to do everything differently and to grow more from the experience that I was in a more positive way than kind of look back and being like, when I was in college because of X, Y, and Z. Again, I really do love this school. I am a proud Wildcat Villanovan, but I would love to have the opportunity to go back and just kind of shake a couple more cages. I don't think I shook enough. I think I could have done more and been a louder voice. My voice was loud, but not loud enough.
Now,
I would love to go back.
Would you do those things to change the school, or would you do those things to change Natalia?
Both. Both. More to change the school, because I think I definitely got a fair share of how it impacted me, but I definitely would love to have more opportunities to be able to work on the student body. And I had my opportunities to help recruit. I did work with the admissions office when I was there, and I made it very clear that, you know, we need to have more urban kids. We need to have kids that aren't white, that, you know, are Latino and Latina, and, you know, stop just bringing in the people of color to fill your sports spots. And, you know, we needed variety. And I was tired of seeing the same kids who looked exactly the same. I couldn't tell the difference between people half the time that I was there. And that speaks volumes. And, you know, there were definitely people on the faculty that wanted to see that, but didn't do enough to make that happen. And there are a lot of conversations that happen on that campus, but they kind of get brushed under the rug after a while, again, because it is not the popular voice. It is not the popular opinion.
Yeah, well,
I think I would have done.
Let me ask you this question. You got a little sister. She's not too far from graduating from high school.
No, she's not. I hate thinking about it.
and so you're her coach, and you're going to say, go to Villanova? Don't go to Villanova.
She's going to apply. We were actually just talking about this Tuesday. She's off this week. So her and I were having the conversation about college and, you know, the kind of pressures that come with it and so on and so forth. And I told her that she, you know, pick. I want her to apply to Villanova, but I'm not going to ask her to go there. She's a completely different person than I am. So I wouldn't expect her to want to survive in that environment. My sister also looks a lot more Latina, if you want to put stereotypes on it. She's darker. She, you know, she can't pass for white the way I very much am aware that I can. So I don't know if she would end up at Villanova. She's a little bit more of a free spirit, and I think Villanova's a little bit more conservative than she may want. But she's definitely going to apply. She doesn't have much of a choice for that. And she is going to the great debate this year at Villanova. So she'll definitely get a taste of just kind of being on campus.
Well, wait a minute.
But
if you're going to be the education director, is she going to have an edge? I mean, are you going to let her do her own thing? Or is Big Sister going to be coaching her? Come on, be honest.
No. I am very well aware I will ruin her experience if
I don't believe you. I don't believe a word you're saying. I just want you to know that.
I promise my mother, and my mother will have my head on a silver platter if I bother my sister at all. So I made a vow to both my sister and my mother and myself that I will very much stay out of her hair. And a lot of the staff members that are going to be there this summer know who she is. And I also made it very clear to them to not treat her as my sister or as somebody that you know. Let her experience be her experience.
But she's been hearing these things since she was a little girl about college and about the great debate.
She read the third reality when she was in like the 6th grade, because I have 2 copies and her and I read it together. So it's a little scary. So she may not be necessarily coming in with an advantage, but I know that she's a little worried because in her head, she sees how crazy I am about NHI, and she doesn't know if she wants to be as crazy as I am. But I'm hoping that she will be, secretly.
And now for a quick break.
The National Hispanic Institute is an organization with a 37-year history of working to change the social narratives of our young Latinas and Latinos to help them envision a new America, a new Latino community, a new direction, and a different kind of culture. We want our young people to be inspired by who they are and see the asset value of our culture and these 800 million people in this vast amount of land that starts all the way in Canada and goes all the way to the tip of Argentina.
Our hope for an alum is that that they have the mindset of giving back to their community, that they want to help, they want to contribute. And B is that they realize this throughout their entire lives and make leadership part of their overall journey throughout their whole life.
The National Hispanic Institute has been part of my life for as long as I can remember. It has literally educated and re-educated an entire generation or two now of young Latinos and their allies around the country, around the world, to think about our community and think about our role in the community as being change agents and ultimately in advancing the cause and the needs of our community.
Personally, the National Hispanic Institute has helped me reach goals and do things that I didn't think I was going to be able to do before.
And so what we did was create these learning experiences where young people could learn to be in charge of things.
We just encourage people to go way beyond a career in life. We want to see them have a community calling.
NHI is a place where I come and I have to learn how do I pass on values.
And then the benefit of that self-belief that it's possible, things are possible for all of us, and that we can contribute to the success of others.
We look at the richness of our community, at its value, at its capacities, and we go from that point forward. We don't want our young people to look at themselves and their communities and look down. We want them to look up and be inspired.
And now back to the conversation.
Let me take you in a different direction the reason I called.
Yeah.
You know Alex Ocasio, and she's running for the U.S. Congress, and you know that she graduated 4th in her class at Boston University. You know all that. And I used to remind her that at a given time in her journey, in her trajectory, the bottom of friendships were going to fall out because the kids she went to college with at Boston were not going to be her neighborhood friends that were part of her journey coming out of the Bronx and coming out of New York. What happened to you? When you left a sorority, as I recall, and you left a particular class of people with whom you shared maybe not a journey, but you certainly shared an environment. Were those contacts advantageous to you, or did you no longer get to see them, interact, talk, pursue life, have a frame of reference for the life you were going to take?
So funny enough, I'm extremely social, but I'm also very antisocial. I can be open, but also very to myself. So I didn't make tons of friends at Villanova, and that was by my own choice. And if I could go back, I would change that a bit. I do keep in contact with my sorority sisters, but in a sense for it to be advantageous, no. For me, I never came out of college thinking that these are going to be my lifelong friends. I took college more as a learning experience rather than I'm going to be friends with this particular male or female for the rest of my life. I'm very I'm very particular, however you want to put it, when it comes to the people that I consider I'm going to know this person for the rest of my life, and I am going to make sure that I invest my time and resources in this particular person. I can't necessarily say that I walked out of college thinking that those people were going to be with me. People I grew up with here in New York, definitely, and they continue to be even when I was in college and I left them because everybody kind of stood home and I was the only one that went to college. And that had its own interesting experience. But
so are you caught in between two worlds? I'm curious because I think because of our friendship, because of our friendship, I know some of your friends from where you grew up and where you lived.
Yeah.
And I remember your grandmother. Oh my God. And then there's the Villanova friends. And I'm going, is she caught up between these two worlds? And are there two competing worlds?
Definitely. I mean, I remember my sophomore year, I invited a handful of my friends that I grew up with to come and stay on campus. It was one of the most uncomfortable weekends I have ever had in my life. And I get emotional about it in the sense that they looked at me and they were like, wow, like you have the best food and this is the most beautiful campus. I wish I did this. I wish I did this. I wish I did this. And it broke my heart. Not that they didn't have the opportunity to do it, because they very much did. They just took a completely different direction than I did. And I felt that it was more of something that was making a difference between us rather than bringing us together and us kind of sharing this really cool weekend at Villanova. But once I came back and I graduated, we were all back at the same place. And I was happy that that feeling went away. And yes, I'm the kid that came out of the hood with a degree, but you know, we still find ourselves living paycheck to paycheck anyway. So we still have the same issues from before. But it's definitely two different worlds of, you know, you had this 4-year experience with people who kind of went through the ups and downs of being in college, and my friend group didn't consist of any upper class white people. So most of the people I was friends with very much came from the same kind of background I did. But then I also have my friends who, some of them didn't even make it out of high school.
So you're saying that bankers and employers weren't lining the street when you graduated from Villanova?
Hell no, of course not. I mean, I definitely had an advantage at the fact that I went to a Catholic school, and here I am working for, you know, the Archdiocese of New York. No, I didn't. Did I have friends that did? Hell yeah, but they all went to the business school, and I didn't want to be in the business school. So for me, I took a different route. The major I chose, I didn't choose because I was interested in it. I chose it because the professors were the ones who were shaking the cages and trying to change the campus. And I'm like, I want to be taught by them. So I followed, you know, in that particular major. But no, there wasn't anybody lined up saying, hey, I want Natalia. So it's to me, it's not that big of a deal. It is what it is. I have my degree. I went to Villanova. I'm proud to say it, but I'm not going to sit here and say that,
it's a form
I
of
became
social,
more popular because of it.
Yeah, it's a form of social currency. I wanted to just delve into one other little deal here and then shift attention to another topic. When your friends went to college, because I remember having a similar experience, do you think they were saying, these are things we never had, or do you think they were saying, she's showing us what we will never get?
I think it was more of the latter, in the sense that these are things that we're never going to get. And it has to do more with the fact of the decisions that they made. Because we all came from the same base. You know, we all went to Catholic school, and, you know, we all grew up in the projects, and we all, you know, only had one parent. So a lot of our households were very similar. It's just some chose, like, yeah, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to go to community college. Or, you know what, I'm tired of going to school, so I'm just going to drop out now and not even finish high school. Or, you know, I'm not feeling college, so I'm just going to kind of work my way up and see how networking does for me. So I got a lot of, you know, oh, I wish I would have went away to college. Or it was more of, yeah, I'm never going to get this because at this point I don't have time to do this, or I no longer have the opportunity to do this.
So do you believe, Natalia, that they will never get there, whatever there means? Do you think there is a conscious realization that somewhere along the line, life has already left them behind, and they're glad for their friend Natalia? And this is because it's New York, and it's because the opportunity structure is not there, and therefore...
No, not at all. So there, initially, in your first question, there was Villanova, was going away to college. That's different. Do I think that they'll ever go away to college? No. There, as in maybe in terms of success and lifelong happiness and being able to achieve your dreams, do I think they'll get there? Yes. At different times, yes. They may get there before I do, and I'm quote unquote the one with a degree and this quote unquote social status or whatever. I think that yes, very much you can get caught up in just being a person that pays bills and, you know, pays rent and all this other stuff. But I'm very aware and have had multiple conversations with my friends that, you know, there's more to life than just being a bill payer. And I know that they all have their dreams and will find a way to hustle, be a New Yorker, and hustle their way to achieve them. And I just think that's the day and age. Yeah, opportunity is few and far between in New York. But the friends that I have and the people that I grew up with, including people like Alex Ocasio, excuse me for not being politically correct, but we bust our asses to get what we want to get. And there is no way that you're going to tell us no, whether we have a degree or not, whether we graduate from high school or not, we're going to make it.
Now, is that because you went to Villanova and Boston University? Or is that because it's your personality growing out of New York and the hood?
Personality, hands down, hands down. Whether I went to Villanova or not, whether I went to college or not, that is ingrained in me. That is my family. We've been in New York. Well, my mother's side has been in New York for the past 5 generations. That is who we are. We have no other choice but to hustle, because if you don't hustle, you're going to be dead. And that's it. So I whether I went to college or not, this was still going to be a part of who I was.
So project that for me 20 years from now. I know that you're going through a divorce right now with New York. At least I think you are. With the idea of moving to Texas, not Texas.
Yes, Houston in particular.
And the little bird has told me also that you were thinking of Houston as a possibility. Is there a reason?
Yes. I'm exhausted. New York definitely takes a lot of energy out of you.
Okay.
And for me, I'm going to be 24 next month. I'm really young. I consider myself a baby. I am a baby. And for me to be this tired and to feel like I'm a billion years old, like my knees hurt. My knees hurt. My back hurts. I don't want to feel like this. And a lot of that has to do with my job. Requires me to hustle, and I want to always have the hustle in my blood, but the kind of toll that it's taking on me right now is not one that I feel is healthy physically and mentally, and also for my family as well, because I'm so tired and exhausted. I find myself being disgruntled a lot more often, and not being very understanding to my family dynamic that I technically infiltrated once again after graduating from college, because I live with my mother, and I'm proud to say that, because I don't pay New York City rent. I contribute to it, but don't pay it fully. It just doesn't make any sense financially to live up here. So I'm just trying to find a better route to hustle in, because I'm busting my butt to barely scrape 2 pennies together. And if I can live in a place that me hustling is going to result in something, then I'm going to pick up and move there. So I'm hoping Houston is it. My mom's hoping that it's not, but I'm hoping Houston is it.
Is she going to go with you?
If I have kids, yeah. Which I don't plan on having kids till in my 30s. So
is the little sister going to go with you?
She's very reluctant, but she hasn't been to Texas yet. But I'm more than positive I can convince her that, once she's done with high school and she does her whole college thing, no matter where my mother and I are, she's going to follow. Just
tell him it's all about the horses. You see horses one time and it's over. The love affair begins.
We have horses here.
Well,
Natalia, on them, but we have horses here.
I'm going to bring this to a close for a very simple reason, and I'll share that with you. I'm also an Uber for my granddaughter Mackenzie, and Grandpa needs to be at the elementary school to pick her up and take her to go get a snack and just be together for a little bit. You've been with us.
You want to pick me up too?
Yeah, right. Yeah. You've been with us since you were a freshman. How many years has that been now?
Almost 10. 2019 will make it 10 years.
Wow.
So right now I'm at 9, but it's been a nice almost decade. I love it.
I want to know. I want the listening audience to know that Natalia Palmarini is very close to the National Hispanic Institute. She's a very dear personal friend of mine, and I've always admired you for your guts and your grit. I want them to know that you also changed the NHI, and you've always contributed. You were an intern. You've been here. You've been a great support system. You're now an educational director, and you help direct the Northeast Great Debate. You've served in multiple roles in this organization. You've always been a very loyal supporter and giver, and a person who's willing to donate even when you had to stretch a dollar. And if you don't think I've recognized that, well, then you're very wrong, because I recognize your loyalty and your support and your love for the work. And I want you to give a special thank you and hello to your mom and your little sister, and know that we here love you very deeply and respect you and look forward to you being and joining our family in Texas as time permits. And we'll look forward to seeing you again. Okay, we're going to sign off, and thank you very much, Natalia Palmarini.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
For more information on the National Hispanic Institute, please visit our website, www.nationalhispanicinstitute.org. Call us at 512-357-6137. Find us on Facebook at NHIHQ or on Twitter, NHI_news, and at Instagram and Snapchat, NHI_news. Thank you to Union Pacific for their generous support as a sponsor of the NHI Podcast Network.